Stapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine Stapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine Avatara varishtaya Ramakrishna te namah Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityorma mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from unreal to the real, to lead us from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Sri Ramakrishna's teachings given by gospel are intensely practical. A person who seeks liberation, a person who wants to see God, who wants to realize the truth, should follow the instructions of Sri Ramakrishna with great care, with great love and devotion. We are reading chapter 25 in the Gospel. Sri Ramakrishna is giving instructions to Pandit Shashadhar, a great Pandit, man of sincere aspirations, devoted and simple, means free from ego. He is humble, though a great scholar. Sri Ramakrishna recognized the good qualities in him, and he gave him spiritual guidance. In a way, he became the guru of Pandit Shashadhar. He tells him very clearly how to conduct his life hereafter. Stop all talks, enough of them. Step into practices. And Sri Ramakrishna knew very well that Pandit Shashadhar had read many scriptures. So he is telling him pointedly, there are so many scriptures like the Vedas, 6 systems of philosophy. But one cannot realize God without austerity and spiritual discipline. Very pointedly he has said to Shashadhar, through him to all of us. What is that? Without austerity and spiritual discipline, it is not possible to realize the truth, to achieve freedom, to attain peace and bliss, to speak to God. It is Sri Ramakrishna's own words. God cannot be found in the 6 systems, Vedas or the Tantras. You have to get him through your spiritual efforts. So, it's very clear, if we are really seeking the truth, we must step up our spiritual disciplines. There's a famous statement done by Patanjali Maharshi in his Yoga Sutras. Mradu madhyadi matratvat tatopi visheshataha. People may practice spiritual disciplines, but success varies according to whether the effort is weak, moderate, or strong. This is the statement of Patanjali Maharshi. So your achievement depends upon your intensity of spiritual practice. Every line, please note, every point is essential for us. You must direct your whole mind towards the spiritual goal. If one is of calculating mind, if he thinks of returns, he seldom devotes his life to God. There is an example. One who will learn to swim must get into water with the necessary equipment. An earnest one can learn swimming quicker than one who sits down and calculates the hours and minutes within which he will be able to master the art. When earnestness comes, there will not arise the question of time that will be taken for the fructification of the efforts. Earnestness plays most important part. My whole mind is concerned about the earnestness and efforts, not diverting the mind to any other thing. So for such a person, time doesn't exist. There is a fable, I think it's said by Sri Ramakrishna. There was a crow, its name was Bhushandi. It was so industrious in taking the name of Rama that even when it felt thirsty, it would not drink water for fear the time so spent would go a waste. That should be the attitude of a real devotee. Make use of the time towards spiritual practices. There's another famous spiritual text called Vedanta Sara. It gives a vivid picture of one who thirsts for God. Such a qualified pupil, scorched by the fire of the round of birth, death, and so on, should approach a guru learned in the scriptures, ever thinking of God, just as a man with his head on fire rushes to a lake. So what is very important in our spiritual efforts is perseverance. Perseverance. It's very important quality which we should cultivate in spiritual practices. Otherwise, one may lead to frustration because you won't get the result immediately. You don't know the condition of your mind. You don't know what all the propensities are there, locked up in some corner of your mind. So as long as you are not aware of them, you can't know why the results are not coming up as you expected. So you may tend to be frustrated. But if you develop the quality of perseverance, that will solve the problem of frustration. Keep on practicing. That's all that I should do. That's all that I should do. Swami Vivekananda told a story depicting the importance of perseverance. You know, Narad was a great sage. He could travel anywhere in the world. He could go to heavens. He can go anywhere. One day, he was passing through a forest. There he saw a man sitting in meditation in a steady posture, meditating there for a long time, probably many years, so much so an anthill had grown around his body. So Narad Maharshi came near the anthill. He could see the person meditating there. He could see him. And the person who was meditating upon could also see Narad, and he immediately recognized him to be a great sage. So he requested Narad to ascertain from God whether he will be able to attain freedom and when God will be merciful to him. Narad said, all right, I will report the matter to God and let you know later on. Then he went forward. In another place, there was another spiritual aspirant. He was carrying on his spiritual practices in his own way, not like this man who was meditating in a fixed posture. The second one, his meditation, his spiritual practice was singing, dancing, jumping, shedding tears of joy while repeating God's name. That was his way. He also could recognize the great sage, Narad. He also was very anxious to know. So he also asked Narad to ascertain God when he would be free. Narad said he will let him know later on. So years passed. Then one day Narad was returning the same way. First he met the person who was meditating in the ant hill with a fixed posture. And the man was very curious to know the result and he was very anxious. And he inquired Narad whether he had gone to God and whether he got the answer. Narad said yes. And he told him, well, he would attain freedom in 4 more births. You will have to be born again 4 times. Then you will have freedom. When he heard this, that man became restless, began to weep and wail. He began to complain, what? I have meditated so long period, many years. Until has grown around me. Still I have to wait for 4 more births. A kind of frustration was seen on his face. Narad didn't react. Simply he observed and kept silent. Then he went forward. He approached the second one who was singing and dancing. He was also very anxious to know the answer. He was also very eager to know when he would be able to see God. Then Narad said, look, there is a tree, tamarind tree. Tamarind tree is famous for number of leaves, full of leaves. So, pointing out to those leaves in the tamarind tree, he said, as many leaves as there are on the tree, so many times you will have to be born, and then you will attain freedom. Nobody can count the leaves in the tamarind tree. They are so innumerable. That means you have to take number of births. Well, this man didn't complain. On the other hand, he became joyful. He began to dance in great joy and said, well, wonderful, I have heard a very good news from you. What is that? I shall have freedom after such a short time. He had so much faith in what Narad said. He got an assurance that he will get freedom. That was enough for him. Nothing else is important. So seeing the intensity of his earnestness, immediately a voice came. He heard the voice. It said, "My child, you will have freedom this minute." So that was the reward for his perseverance. That means he was ready to work through all these births. Nothing discouraged him. But the first man felt that even 4 births were too long. So only perseverance like that of the second one, who was willing to wait aeons, brings about the highest result. If we just observe our efforts, we will find that the results do not come within the expected time, nor are they so rich as we expected them to be. There are so many factors that intervene, either to delay or mar the results. One of them is the human factor. Much depends upon our equipment, our mental progress and attitude. Environments and the rest are of secondary importance. When we speak of the human factor in the spiritual field, we mean the evolution of the mind. Evolution of the mind. We are born with certain propensities. Each one is loaded with varieties of propensities. Each one's mind is full of propensities in different ways. There is no generalization. If they are propitious or helpful towards our onward progress, we attain to perfection early. These propensities themselves propel us onward to our goal. That means how important it is, the play of propensities. The propensities are created by us, by our actions, by our thinking, by doing things repeatedly, willingly, consciously. Whatever we do, they all go into the mind, stay on there in the form of impression. Whatever you do intensely, that makes intense impression in the mind, stays on there. Lord Krishna says in the Gita, one who has fallen from yoga is born in the house of the rich and the pure persons, or he is born in the family of the yogis. Such a birth is most difficult to attain. Shushinam Shrimatangehe Yoga Bhrashto Vijayate Athava Yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam yetaddi durlabhataram bhavet. Loke Janma Yadidrasham. Lord Krishna says, by the momentum of past practice, you will be irresistibly carried forward. So nothing is lost. Your efforts are not lost in vain. They have their results. So here is an assurance of the Lord that though we may fail to achieve the goal in this life, our efforts do not go in vain. Everything is conserved, everything is counted in our favor. Even the smallest of righteous action saves you from a great danger. Even the smallest of righteous action saves you from a great danger, says Lord Krishna. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahado bhayat. That is the Sanskrit version. He also says, Nahi kalyanakrit kaschid durgatin tata gacchati. No person of good deeds ever comes to grief. Till one goes to sleep and till death overtakes one should engage oneself in deliberating over the spiritual truths. Here, deliberation doesn't imply merely discussions and debates, but practice as well. Practice must be done. That is spiritual discipline. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said. Austerity and spiritual discipline must be rigorously followed. For Vedanta to take root requires more practice than discussion. The more you practice, the more you become nearer towards the truth. It is the practice that takes you towards the goal. It is the spiritual efforts that take you towards the goal. If today you have not done spiritual effort properly, to that extent you have not progressed in your spiritual path on that particular day. So your progress is measured according to your spiritual efforts. So spiritual practices should be done without let or hindrance. Totapuri, who initiated Sri Ramakrishna into Advaitic Vedanta, he said, the brass pot should be daily scoured to keep it clean. Likewise, minds are to be daily cleansed by spiritual practices, so that there may not be any deposits or incrustations on it. Spiritual practices. So, by spiritual practices, you are creating good propensities. Thereby, you will be able to make progress in spiritual path. So, if you are really aspiring for God realization, you must give top priority for your spiritual practices. You must have tremendous faith in the instructions of the Guru. You must have unflinching reverence, love and devotion to the Guru who has led you in the spiritual path. You have to guard yourself. You must take all steps to maintain this attitude. Guru is everything for the disciple. And the spiritual instructions are to be practiced constantly, concentratedly, sincerely. That's the way we should go. Don't expect the results, results will come. If you expect the results, results will not come. So, results come when you have got the grace of God. Grace of God flows upon you once you are well rooted in the spiritual ideas and well established in spiritual practices. Then you will be sanctified by the grace of God. Then you will have all the results, more than what you expect. So let us follow what Sri Ramakrishna has said. Austerity and spiritual disciplines must be carried on relentlessly. That's the way of Sri Ramakrishna. If you have come to Sri Ramakrishna for spiritual guidance, it means spiritual practice must be on the top priority. Whatever you do is a part and parcel of spiritual practice. If you have that attitude, then you don't have to frustrate, you don't have to grumble. On the other hand, you will learn. You will learn to become strong. You will learn to fight all your weaknesses. You will learn to overcome all hindrances on your path. With these words I conclude my talk. Page 480. The master continued, I don't press my arm to my side. Both my hands are free. I am not afraid of anything. I accept both the Nitya and the Leela, both the absolute and the relative. I said to Keshav Sen that he would not be able to realize God without renouncing the ego. He said, Sir, In that case, I should not be able to keep my organization together. Thereupon Sri Ramakrishna said to him, I am asking you to give up the unripe ego, the wicked ego. But there is no harm in the ripe ego, the child ego, the servant ego, the ego of knowledge. The worldly man's ego, the ignorant ego, the unripe ego is like a thick stick. It divides, as it were, the water of the ocean of Satchidananda. But the servant ego, the child ego, the ego of knowledge, is like a line on the water. One clearly sees that there is only one expanse of water. The dividing line makes it appear that the water has two parts, but one clearly sees that in reality there is only one expanse of water. Shankaracharya kept the ego of knowledge in order to teach people. God keeps in many people the ego of a jnani or the ego of a bhakta, even after they have attained Brahmajnana. Hanuman, after realizing God in both his personal and his impersonal aspect, cherished towards God the attitude of a servant, a devotee. He said to Rama, O Ram, sometimes I think that you are the whole and I am a part of you. Sometimes I think that you are the master and I am your servant. And sometimes, Rama, when I contemplate the Absolute, I see that I am you and you are I. Yashoda became grief-stricken at being separated from Krishna and called on Radha. Radha saw Yashoda's suffering and revealed herself to her as the divine Shakti, which was her real nature. She said to Yashoda, Krishna is Chidatma, absolute consciousness, and I am Chit Shakti, the primal power. Ask a boon of me. Yashoda said, I don't want Brahmajnana, please grant me only this, that I may see the form of Gopala in my meditation, that I may always have the company of Krishna's devotees, that I may always serve the devotees of God, that I may always chant God's name and glories. Once the gopis felt a great desire to see the forms of the Lord. So Krishna asked them to dive into the water of the Jamuna. No sooner did they dive into the water than they all arrived at Vaikuntha. There they saw the form of the Lord endowed with his 6 celestial splendors. But they did not like it. They said to Krishna, we want to see Gopala and serve him. Please grant us that boon alone. We don't want anything else. Before his departure for Mathura, Krishna wanted to give the knowledge of Brahman to the gopis. He said to them, I dwell both inside and outside all beings. Why should you see only one form of mine? The gopis cried in chorus, O Krishna, do you want to go away from us? Is that why you are instructing us in Brahmajnana? Do you know the attitude of the gopis? It is this. We are Radha's and Radha is ours. The ideal of the gopis was not to merge themselves in God consciousness, but to keep their individuality in order to enjoy the communion of Radha and Krishna. They regarded themselves as the companions of Radha. A devotee asked, does this I of the devotee never disappear altogether? Master said, yes, it disappears at times. Then one attains the knowledge of Brahman and goes into Samadhi. I too lose it, but not for all the time. In the musical scale, there are 7 notes, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni. But one cannot keep one's voice on ni a long time. One must bring it down again to the lower notes. I pray to the Divine Mother, O Mother, don't give me Brahmajnana. Formerly, believers in God with form used to visit me a great deal. Then the modern Brahmajnanis, that is the members of the Brahma Samaj who believed in the formless Brahman, began to arrive. During that period, I used to remain unconscious in Samadhi most of the time. Whenever I regained consciousness, I would say to the Divine Mother, O Mother, please don't give me Brahmajnana. Pandit said, does God listen to our prayers? Master said, God is the Kalpataru, the wish-fulfilling tree. You will certainly get whatever you ask of him. But you must pray standing near the Kalpataru. Only then will your prayer be fulfilled. But you must remember another thing. God knows our inner feeling. A man gets the fulfillment of the desire he cherishes while practicing sadhana. As one thinks, so one receives. A magician was showing his tricks before a king. Now and then he exclaimed, come confusion, come delusion. O king, give me money, give me clothes. Suddenly his tongue turned upward and clouded to the roof of his mouth. He experienced kumbhaka. It's a kind of pranayam. He could utter neither word nor sound and become motionless. People thought he was dead. They built a vault of bricks and buried him there in that posture. After 1,000 years, someone dug into the vault. Inside it, people found a man seated in samadhi. They took him for a holy man and worshipped him. When they shook him, his tongue was loosened and regained its normal position. The magician became conscious of the outer world and cried, as he had 1,000 years before, come confusion, come delusion. O king, give me money, give me clothes. I used to weep, praying to the Divine Mother, O Mother, destroy with thy thunderbolt my inclination to reason. Pandit said, then you too had an inclination to reason? Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, once. Pandit, then please assure us that we shall get rid of that inclination too. How did you get rid of yours? Master said, oh, somehow or other. Sri Ramakrishna was silent a while. Then he went on with his conversation. We shall stop here. Any questions are welcome. When you have taken up spiritual life, that means you have to step into austerities and spiritual disciplines. That is the sum and substance of today's comments. Spiritual life means spiritual practice. They go together. There cannot be spiritual life without spiritual practice. Yeah. Efforts get lessened. So the idea here is, particularly with respect to spiritual, even with respect to worldly matters, you can't expect the result quickly. It has got its own time, and sometimes even though you have done well, the results may not come well. Why the results didn't come up well in spite of your doing efforts? Because it has got so many factors. Sometimes probably, suppose you are planning to do something in the garden. You have sowed some seeds, some saplings and so on. thinking that everything would come up very well. But suddenly the rain comes, it's over-flooded, it destroys all the saplings, everything. So that means there are so many other factors responsible for not giving the desired result. So, if you have that kind of attitude in yourself, let the results come by itself. Even without your asking, the results will come. But doing the things is important. If you don't cultivate the land properly, and if you don't take care of the sapling properly, even though all the weather conditions are good, you may not get the desired result. So, the most important factor, what Sri Ramakrishna is telling here, is that the mind, which is responsible for all these things. To give you a good result, you must have a very good mind. Perfectly cleansed mind. What is the meaning of cleansed mind? Cleansed mind is one which is free from all the propensities that take you away from God. So mind which delights in spiritual practices, that is considered clean mind. So, first of all, you have to clean the mind. How much time it takes, how much time, how much effort you have to make to keep your mind in good condition. In spite of your good intention, it slips down. Sometimes you feel bad without any reason. Sometimes you say, I don't know why I am unhappy today. Really, you don't want to become unhappy, but you are unhappy. So, that unhappiness is because of some other factor. It's not because of your present action or your present way of life. That is because of the reaction of something done somewhere at some point of time, and so on and so forth, which we don't know. So instead of unnecessarily getting worried over that, just come and sit before Sri Ramakrishna and pray for a few minutes. Oh Lord, I am your child. Please protect me, guide me. Finished. But sometimes what happens is, we don't do as we want to do. When you say, oh God, give me peace, I am your child, and so on, then you must try sincerely that you should not slip down to your weaknesses. That means getting irritation every now and then, picking faults at everything, hurting the people, getting hurt himself, all such things. So, in spite of your carefulness and alertness, even then things may come. You may get irritation, but immediately you must think of God, think of Sri Ramakrishna. Get over that. Change the mood. Change the mood. Then you will be a wonderful person. Think of the divine quality of Sri Ramakrishna. Then you will be able to get over all these weaknesses. As long as these weaknesses stay on in the mind, They keep on troubling you again and again in some form or other. This time in the form of anger, next time in the form of jealousy, another time in the form of hatred. So many forms. So, if you get disturbed over and over again, that means instead of evolving yourself, you are lowering yourself by allowing your mind in that direction. So you should take steps not to drift the mind that way. So that is why the austerity is prescribed. That's why the discipline is prescribed. Anything else? Partha has got a question, I think. No. So what Sri Ramakrishna is telling, throughout his book I have noted, how many times he has told. He is very much concerned about your doing the thing, not talking. Doing the thing. Doing the thing silently. Don't boast that you have done. Don't allow your ego to raise its hood. Thereby whatever good you have done, all will be smashed just by the egoistic expression. If you are boastful of what you have done, all your doings are smashed. So you are yourself obstructing this spiritual results to come up. You are yourself are the obstructor. So how many ways we have to be careful? How many ways? So reading spiritual texts, feeding the mind all the time with spiritual ideas, practicing it all the time, more and more vigorously, intensely. That's the way to get into spiritual realization. As the Yoga Sutra says, the result depends upon the intensity of your practice. The success depends upon the intensity of your practice combined with perseverance. That's all.